This is Mr. Weideman, Lafayette High School, Functions in Trigonometry. To start today's lesson, everybody should have a copy of this document in their hand. And we're going to work some of these together, and then you're going to complete the rest of the packet on your own. We're going to talk about that and then go over your homework. Okay, so let's talk about what is different than what you did on your warm-up. Well, not a whole lot. The only thing that's different is in your warm-up, you're kind of given these ugly, sort of dorky-looking functions to work with, and that you translate it. The only difference is we are going to translate our parent functions that we talked about last week. So in order to do that, there are three things I need you to have, okay? First of all, this document, because we're going to work some of these together. You're going to work the rest. The second thing you're going to need is, unless you totally have them memorized, you're going to need this document of our parent functions. And why am I going to need that? Well, if I look right here, I say, okay, my parent function is the absolute value function is what I need to translate. So I'm going to come up to here and my parent functions document. Okay, there is the t-table for the absolute value function. There's this graph. Now I'm ready to go to work. That's why you want this guy. Second thing you want is your foldable. Right, that tells you what to do, help you recognize each type of translation, and what to do for each. Okay, obviously a good sharp pencil, no pens, fingers and toes, no calculators. Okay, let's get to work. The first one I want to talk about here is, okay, this is kind of an ugly one. Let's start with this one right here. Number 3. This is a cube root function. What's the first thing you do? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to recognize, yes, this is a cube root function. All right, and then you go to your parent functions document and look up the t-table if you don't have it already memorized. That's what that thing is for. Okay, so this is our t-table. And we need to perform some translations. Okay, so the next skill you got to look up here and say, well, what sort of translations do you want me to do? And if I look here, okay, I can see a negative sign in front of my parent function. That is a reflection over the x-axis. I need to multiply all my y values by -1. All right, that's what we're going to do. Here's a little helpful hint. It is going to be a y-axis reflection if the negative is front of the function. It's going to be a y-axis reflection if the negative sign is stuck in parentheses with the x. That is your indicator. You need to see that negative sign stuck inside the function with the x, all right? So that's going to be very important. But anyways, we can clearly recognize negative signs outside. I need to reflect over the y-axis by multiplying all my y values by -1. Okay, well, let's do that then. All right, so here's my t-table. X values I'm going to leave alone. Describe the transformation. This is going to be a y-axis reflection that's going to be performed, x-axis reflection that's going to be performed by multiplying all the y values by -1. These y values by -1. Okay, so now I have a new t-table. Okay, this guy is out. This guy is in. There's my x values. There's my y values. That reflects or shows me what I did for my x-axis reflection. Okay, new t-table. This guy's out. This guy's in. All right, so now I'm going to go to work on this t-table. And what does it say to do now? Well, I go back and I say, yeah, I know what that is. Looked in my foldable. It's right down here at the bottom. I'm adding something to my parent function. So I'm going to add that value to all the values in my t-table. All right, so this is the t-table I'm going to be working with. And it says I need to add 2 to these values, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. X values in this particular problem don't have any transformation, so I'm going to take this t-table and I'm going to add 2 to all those values. This is my final t-table. There's my x values, there's my y values. This t-table is the one that I'm going to plot on my paper. And there it is. Okay, and that should make sense. Okay, the graph has definitely been shifted up. 1, 2, 3 units. 2 units, my bad. It's been 2 units, and it's definitely been flipped around the y-axis. Okay, so we're pretty happy with this. All right, let me show you another example. And this one has a nasty little trick to it that I need you to be aware of. Okay, now this nasty little trick only happens in radical functions, cube roots and square roots. And here's the nasty little trick. This negative in front of the x, okay, you say to yourself, well, okay, I know that from my foldable. That's going to be a reflection of the y-axis. Well, yeah, okay, good, but not quite so fast. This, let's see, I'm adding 2. That is a positive 2. So you might think to yourself, a positive 2, that is going to shift it to the left. And there's the wait a minute string, not so fast. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rearrange these terms just a little bit. Negative x, positive 2, I just switched their order. It's all good. Now what I did is I factored out the negative, all underneath the radical. I'm not taking anything out of the radical. And then I have this. I have a negative x minus 2. And I go, wait a minute. Now I've got a shift to the right instead of a shift to the left. It's exactly right. This is going to be a shift to the right, not to the left, like we thought here. Like I said, it only happens on radical functions that you really have to worry about this. But when you see this, I need you to rearrange your term, factor out the negative. Dirty trick. I can go more about the mathematical proof about why this is so, but for right now, this is what I need you to do. Okay. Regardless of doing this little nasty trick, my parent function is clearly a root function. So I look at my parent, and there's the parent function for y equals square root of x. That's the guy that we're going to translate. Okay, so there where we start. All right, I look in my foldable, and what is the first thing I got to do? I got to take care of reflections. Okay, this is a negative being multiplied to the x, so that is going to be a y-axis reflection. And our foldable tells us that in that case, I need to multiply my x values by negative 1. Okay, let's do that. So each one of these guys is going to be multiplied by negative 1. This is now my new t-table with my y-axis reflection. Okay, what's the next thing I got to do? This guy here. All right, this is x minus 2, so my foldable tells me I have to add 2 to my x values. All right, so let's do that. So I add 2 to each one of my x values. This t-table is no good anymore. This is the t-table I'm going to plot. All right, after I've done my horizontal shift, there's the original function. There's its reflection. There's its shift to the right, not the left, like you would think. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do this one all the way, but I am going to at least set it up for you. Let's look at number 8. Okay, it's the dirty trick again. Okay, so what I needed to do is I needed to rearrange these terms and factor out the negative. And I did do a good job factoring out the negative. There, I did a good job factoring out the negative. And how do I know? Because if I redistribute it back, this times this, it gives me my negative x. This times this gives me my positive 3. Okay, so this is what I want to do. Now, how many translations do I have here? I've got this. That's going to be a y-axis reflection. Then I have to take care of this guy. That is going to be a shift, a horizontal shift to the left. And then I'm going to take care of then this guy and shift up. Okay, so do the rest of these problems. Don't be afraid to work with your table partner and collaborate and see what each other is getting. And once we finish this classwork, we're going to come back to another video and we're going to check in and see how you did.